once again to the Tandie Jacobs Born to Differ show. My name is Tandie Jacobs and I am so pleased and happy to be having an absolutely amazing, adorable couple with us on the scene today. They are the Oggudahs. I like the surname Oggudah. You know, it just has a ring to it. It has a ring to it. But Grace and Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's absolutely lovely to have you guys here today. I mean, you guys, you complement each other, even the way you're dressed. You know, you can tell they're a couple. You know, they complement each other. Not just one wearing blue, one wearing orange or purple. It doesn't. Right. No, thank you so much for coming here to the show. And I've known Grace for how long now? I think
it feels like 20 years, but I'm sure it's like 3 years.
It's probably about three or 4 years, maybe. 4 years, yeah. Because initially we met on Facebook.
Yes.
For 2 years.
Yes.
Without meeting up face to face, and I used to follow you. We used to talk over the phone, and then I had an event.
Yes.
And I invited you to be a guest speaker. Yeah. Because I mean, I admired how you used to talk and how you used to empower women and everything like that. But I don't want to get too far and talk about your empowerment to women. We'll get there. Yes. But we've known each other for that long. And then from that on, it's like the lights just continue to burn. We've been all over the world together. No, I love it. I love it. So please, tell us about yourselves. Who exactly is Grace and Michael?
So, who's gonna go? I'll go. Okay. Grace and Michael, I would say we are a couple. First and foremost. God has
originally
from Kenya. We come from Kenya. We've been in the journey of love together for now 22 years, but married for 17. So it's been a beautiful journey. And this is my destiny helper, I have to say.
If we were on Facebook, we were putting the love and the likes. Love and the likes, yes.
And I think for us, maybe just born out of our background and maybe the challenges we faced, I think I had a desire there for family.
Okay.
You know, that was just something that was in me, a desire for family. You know, people have these desires to do well in life. For me, it was a family that just made sense. That was the dream I had. You know, I wasn't...
Is it because of what you saw or how you were raised?
Well, I saw my mother and my father. I fortunately lost them when I was very young.
Okay.
But then I saw the challenges. It was a very challenging home. And for me, I realized that you can have all the wealth. You know, it wasn't like a money issue. But when you don't have your peace of mind, and that is something that I really treasured. You know, some people I think go towards the route of they're not interested in marriage. For me, it was I wanted something, but I didn't know how that looked like.
Okay.
But then visiting a friend when I was around 9 years old, which is very fundamental for me, I saw how mother and father should relate.
Okay.
And that's the prayer for me was I want that. I just want to sit at the table with my kids and my husband. And I was only 9, which is very interesting. But that was, for me, the most important thing. So I think also I won't speak for Michael, but I think from his side as well, that's the same passion he's had.
So you guys drew to each other.
Drew to each other with a passion for family. And so we have a marriage ministry, which is our basis. We are passionate about family. We are passionate about parenting. And we just believe that when you have that stable environment, then everything else works, you know.
Very true.
But yeah, so you need to have a home where people can come and refresh. There's so much going on around the world.
Oh, yes. So you need to come a place where you can relax.
But it takes intentional. It wasn't easy for us to create that. You know, there's difference of seeing it
and actually doing it.
And then doing it. It's a completely different thing.
Okay. I'm going to stop you there for a second because you're already on the roll. You know what I'm saying? You're just like, Tandie, I got all this, you know, which is great. But okay, so talking about you wanted family, you've got family. How many children do you have?
We've got 3.
You've got 3 children. And Michael Jr., isn't it?
Michael Jr., yes.
I love Michael Jr. because when you guys are exercising, he always comes in between. When you're doing your recording, he comes and does his own little somersaults or he's pushing mommy. And I love him. I think you should always keep him, in your
And you
exercising
know,
bits.
there's an interesting testimony around Michael Jr.
Oh,
My husband here preferred a smaller family. If I had my own way, we'd have 7 kids.
7.
But
Okay, well done, Michael. Yeah.
so we went for 3. But initially, after our second, he was just like, let's focus on our 2. And we have 2 amazing girls. But I named him 18 years ago.
Okay.
He only came 4 years ago. So I named him and I was still buying his clothes. And I was like, my son is going to come. And his name is Michael. And he came. And then so when my husband gave me a window 5 years ago, and he's like, maybe we should. I was like, yes, we will.
I'm ready. I got the clothes. I got everything. Let's have a baby.
So
I like this.
He came, but his clothes were there waiting for him. So,
I think there's a lot of pressure. Women have got, different ways of communicating, isn't it? You see the clothes coming in slowly. There's no...
It's little messages being sent.
Little messages here and there.
I think one of the good things about it is that eventually you get what it's all about, and you just be in a space whereby you enjoying that particular moment, and that's what it brings you to, because that's what marriage is all about.
That's what marriage is all about.
It's walking in enjoyment and loving one another, and just making sure that you agree in the things that you want.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Now, okay, so both of you guys are life coaches, is that right?
Well, yes.
Life coaches,
marriage
ministry.
coach, life balance. I like to focus it on life balance. But yes, it's coaching. That's
okay,
good.
life balance or life coaching.
Yes.
Okay. And you're marriage counselors as well?
I would say more of marriage coaching.
Marriage coaching.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you are into ministry. You are a pastor?
Yes.
Okay. Pastor Michael.
I'll take that. Most of the times, I think because of the society we are in, people try to shy away from it. But it's a calling that is life transforming. It's a matter of people. It's a matter of changing people, and it's a matter of just reaching out to people and making sure that they fulfill the destiny that God has got for them.
Amen.
And that even comes in terms of marriage. When you're talking about coaching, we are also just in that particular path whereby we're creating an atmosphere that people can be able to see different. Just as Grace said in the beginning, when she was growing up, she was not able to see exactly what she wants, but eventually God opens the door that you can be able to see what you want, but you've got to be able to create that moment that you go intentionally for that which you want. And then it comes in a matter of whatever you access, and that's why we go on that particular route to try and be a light to families and show them something that's a little bit more different.
22 years together.
Yeah.
That is like a story, a book. I don't know how many books, but we're going to get into that in a little bit, okay? Yes. As well as how weatherproof marriage all started from. And we're going to take a quick break. So welcome back to the Tandie Jacobs for Born to Differ, where I'm joined today by Grace and Michael Oggudah. They have started a ministry called Weatherproof Marriage, and they themselves have been married for 17 years, but have been together in the love bubble for 22 years. Love bubble. Now, weatherproof marriage, what does that mean? What is that?
Weatherproof marriage is, I think it's just very descriptive, as the word says. It's based on Matthew 7:24-27, and just building your house on the rock and making sure that, because life happens, stuff happens. Like yesterday, we had sunshine, and then all of a sudden you have this thunderstorm.
I know.
And that reflects on life. Sometimes stuff happens. People lose their jobs, people get sick, within a relationship. And just really knowing how to navigate those seasons, because there's going to be seasons. But knowing that when you're founded on the rock, when you kind of base your marriage on the principles, you're no longer responding to things based on feelings or emotions, but you're coming to your marriage from the basis of truth. And what is the truth? It's not about being wrong or right, because we can all be like, I'm right. But even if you're right, the thing is, what is the objective? What do you need to get at the end? And that will kind of teach you how to respond to circumstances. when things happen externally, so the weather changes, but internally there needs to be that peace. So that although your environment can change, you're still founded on the rock. The weather will change, things will shift, but then they're there to make you stronger.
Are you saying this? So are you saying this from experience? I mean, you talked about season, things happen, life does happen, okay, and it rains, it thunders, sometimes the sunshine, and there's spring.
Yes.
Okay, and we all love those seasons. But the time when there is thunder and storm and everything, is this something that you were saying for us, we have gone through and we've come out of it and we've achieved it, hence our starting this ministry? Is this something that you can be able to testify yourselves?
Yes, it's very personal for us. We've been at a place where we've lost our house and we were homeless. So that's an experience we had. In the beginning, it took us a while to get our footing. You know, it was kind of like we came in, different backgrounds, different personalities, different upbringings. You know, how do you gel that together? How do you get to a point of listening and communicating in a way that empowers both of you? So for us, it's been a journey of, you know, and having staying power. Because nowadays we live in a society, I'm out. You know, I've had enough.
People just kind of take the getaway card
but then
really
what
quickly.
you realize is you pick up the problem ahead. So it's almost like, let's deal with this thing. And sometimes the faults you see in your spouse highlights the faults in yourself. So you can say, I'm patient, but then are you patient? Now let's get to a marriage. And if you're being impatient with someone, rather than focus on them, focus on yourself. I need to be more patient. I need to be more understanding. God ministered to me in this situation. And within a marriage, it's a place where we can grow, because your husband will see stuff that nobody else has seen.
Nobody else can see.
So
I think, wow, there is a lot of things that you are kind of sharing here. And I'm thinking, I think next time I need to have couples that actually you're giving them all this information. Or maybe I should have my partner here and he's also getting all this information. But it's good that people will be able to watch and can get in touch with you. Myself, for me, I think I have a testimony which I have shared with you guys, that the very first time I met you, and I think I'd met Grace, but I hadn't met you, Michael. And when we had gone for the event in Kenya for the Reignite, and I didn't know you, Michael, and I wasn't warm to you as yet, and I just observed. And I remember saying to myself, this is 2018, isn't it? I remember saying to myself, I watched you. Michael heated up his food in the kitchen. Then you brought the plate to him in the lounge, because Michael was now sitting in the lounge. Then you started eating from his plate. You were eating ugali, which is like sadza, isn't it? It was ugali. And that was the most thing that I watched. Then you picked up the sadza with your hands and said it's not warm enough, walked back to the microwave with your hand. And I was like, okay. And then you warmed it up, put it in another plate, warmed it up, then picked it up again from the plate and then brought it back and you ate. And Michael didn't complain. Now, I was like, to be able to have a relationship where you can do things like that without the other person grumbling and complaining, you must have gone through a lot, and you must have now be at a stage where you are comfortable with each other. And I remember saying to myself, I would like a marriage like that, where I can just pick up food and just do that. Maybe I might not take the salsa in my hand. I might not take the salsa in my hand, but it was just how you communicated. So it's not just about what you say to people, but what people can see. You know, another example is when we were sitting in your bedroom and Michael walked in. There were a lot of girls sitting on the bed. Michael walked in, picked up what he wanted, and he walked out. If I was to look at most of the Zimbabwean cultures, if the husband walks in, girls will quickly disappear very fast, you know, or we may not disappear, but you know that later on, the husband and the woman, they're gonna exchange a few words, you know. But that is something that I didn't notice and observe about you. And it's how you communicated and you laughed and you joked about things and being so relaxed. So what would you say then to me when you talk about weatherproof marriage and about marriage itself, or you didn't say marriage counselors, you said marriage coaches. You know, what are the things that you would say to couples to be able to sustain or to get to that level, to that extent?
I think the first important thing that we got to understand that we're all different. and we got to celebrate our differences. Because for once, Grace is a very outgoing person. I'm a very relaxed person. I've got to make.
Yes, you are very relaxed.
I've got to know where I am, but also celebrate who she is. And in that particular avenue, I let her be who she is, because in 100%. And my 100% then forms a dynamic of what marriage is intended to be. Because marriage is not about 50-50. It's a matter of you coming 100%. And if God has created me like this and created her like that, I should be able to leave her in the space that she is and thrive in that particular space.
You said something very important. So I'm just going to stop you there. That a lot of people say that it's 50-50, isn't
because
it?
If
come with 50
and the question regarding that is that if I say it's 50-50, where's the other 50?
Exactly.
Because you are a whole person. You're not half a person, you're a full person.
You're a whole.
And you have been made whole by God even before you came into the marriage. So you are operating 100% before you came into the marriage. So if you're going to say it is 50-50, then in one way you somebody came into the marriage but left the 50%. Where have you left the 50%? Because for you to thrive fully, you have to be whole.
Yeah.
So why not put everything that you've got into that and be celebrated for who you are? Because that in itself creates that dynamic that God intends for that particular marriage to be.
It does. It does. Maybe the 50% is when you go to a restaurant. And you say, I pay my half, you pay your half.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't even be like that anyway, isn't it? The man should pay for the bill, isn't it, Grace?
Well, yes, I agree.
The man should pay for the bill. I think that's a very, very fantastic thing. But also looking at it, whatever belongs to the man belongs to you, and whatever belongs to you belongs to the man, because both of you are together. Both of you are walking that particular journey together.
Yeah.
There is nothing that it's for her or for him, but you're working because all of you have become one.
Yeah.
You've been joined as one.
Wow.
So whether the expense is coming from his card, but at the same time it's coming from your card.
Yeah, use your card.
For both of you.
You see, maybe that's where the whole 50-50 comes in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if at the end you start looking at who pays for this. But then you see, a lot of people struggle, especially if you're not born and bred and raised here. I'm guessing you guys got married in Kenya before you relocated, or did you get married here?
We got married here. Yeah.
Did you?
Yes.
But you started dating in Kenya?
We kind of had.
Or did you meet here?
We kind of had a little conversation in Kenya, but then here is when things really took off. Yeah.
I see. I see. Okay, so how then is it, how was it for you guys in terms of adjusting the culture, the society, the environment, with how from Kenya to here in the UK?
Well, I think culture has to be celebrated.
Okay.
And you have to, we cannot neglect our culture. So that's something that needs to be celebrated. But then also we need to be careful about tradition, because there's things we pick up that don't serve us. So you have to be careful how to balance those two. Like we're talking about money, we have a joint account. And as I was talking about seasons, the danger with 50-50 is there's been a season where my husband wasn't working and I'm working. And there's a season where I wasn't working and he's working. So if you start bringing that 50-50 situations because of the seasons and you're not merging your efforts, what happens is when somebody's earning more, it becomes a problem. When the woman is earning more, then it might become a problem. When the husband is earning and the woman is not earning, it can become a problem. But for us, we have a joint account. The money goes in and it's for everybody. And then when we go out, my husband takes care of the bills. So he has the card, he's the accountant in the house. And each one of us have an individual account and we get the same pocket money. So we have a structure that works. So that gets rid of whose is what.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that our pot is full. So when I do anything in terms of making money, it goes to the pot. When he does anything in terms of making money, it goes to the pot. If the pot reduces our pocket money, he'll call me, he'll say, darling, this month, this is what we're getting for the month. And that pocket money is for you to do whatever. If you want to go to the spa and spend it, that's fine. But then each of us gets that amount of money and he'll be like, this month we have to reduce a bit. Or this month we have a bonus. Yay, I can go get a shoe or whatever it is. But then when you have one pot and we are bringing our collective effort, 100, we need to fill this pot. And then he takes care of the pot because he's the head of the house. So I kind of, okay, you take care of the pot and let us. And for some couples, it might be something different.
Yeah.
Find
Yeah.
what works for
What
you.
works
That's
for
it,
you?
yeah.
And for us, when it comes to handling money, he's on top of it.
I think money on its own is a topic
Yeah.
which is sensitive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And needs another day. Maybe I'm going to invite you guys, and we're going to talk about money and marriage.
Yes.
Okay, because or even have a seminar, which you probably tell us later on if you kind of do those kind of seminars, because people in terms of money, money management and couples, one likes to spend more than the
Yes.
other. One earns more than the other, especially if the woman earns more than the other. It always becomes an issue. But we'll talk a little bit more about how to balance things in terms of marriage. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back. We are back at Tandie Jacobs' Born2Differ show, and Grace and Oggudah are marriage coaches, and they've been telling us about things and challenges that they have faced themselves, as well as advice, little drop or nuggets, should I say, that they have been dropping into the discussion we've been having. They talked about money and about the pot about money, which I think it needs a day on its own, a seminar on its own. Do you sometimes have these kind of seminars, like weather-proof marriage seminars, and you have these certain topics? I know on Facebook you do lives and stuff like that.
We tend to do a lot of lives on Facebook, but we do a couple of seminars, and we're trying to get into that particular space because I think online it has served our purpose, where we can reach more audience than being just in one particular location. But there are times that the need has called for us to be able to be in seminars or just talks that we have out of the perimeter of online.
Okay, which is great, because I think prior to COVID, I know COVID kind of interrupted everybody's lifestyle. A question is, during this COVID period, have you seen or had a high demand of couples getting in touch with you because of the fact that they are now having to stay in the house together 24 hours a day?
Yes.
Has they been... It's like something that they were not used to. So has there been an increase in the phone calls and the demands and assistance and help? There has been?
I think it has, because it highlights the issues people have, because sometimes, living in this country can be interesting. Somebody can be working daytime, they come in, the husband leaves, the husband comes in, the wife leaves, and even there's a story of a husband and wife who they exchange the child at the train station. He comes off the train, he picks up the child, takes to school.
Okay.
So sometimes you don't have to live with somebody, although you're with them. But then now this has forced people to face each other.
Every day.
And it's not something new. There's underlying issues. So it's something that I think has brought their attention or forced them to now have communication. Or some people find it easier to just take off and go and see friends.
Yeah.
But then now you can't go and see your friends.
No, you
It's
can't.
COVID. So we have experienced an increase, and I think communication is one of the things we've been really encouraging couples to have. So some things to kind of improve their communication. Yeah.
All right. Wow. Yes, I'm sure. I did notice on Facebook, as well as even adverts on TV, people talking about things like domestic violence. There was an increase because people were not used to seeing each other a lot, and now you can't take the pressure. And, things like that kind of increased. So I'm not surprised that that actually did happen.
And then you also have the situation where people have lost their jobs. So there's financial pressure. The kids being in the house the whole day. If you have kids who are 3, 4, 5, and it's a lot of pressure.
It's a demand.
Mine is 10 and I still have a lot of pressure and demand.
Homeschooling.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, and these are the storms that now, how do you navigate through those storms?
I think this is where your weatherproof really comes in, isn't it?
Yeah.
To say that in a storm like this comes in, which you don't plan, don't see coming, and it just kind of happens.
It just happens.
And it really shifts and changes things around. Okay. So, now, Grace, I know you we've gone to many places and many events together. And when I've introduced you as an MC at most events, and this is the honest truth, is that you're very powerful. Small, you're very small. You're short and small. You are nicely packaged by God, but you are a very powerful woman, and God has gifted you with a lot of knowledge. And I think one of the things that you are very passionate about is women. You've not recently, but you started Reignite. Is it the women, balanced women, isn't it?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about what is.
That is actually it's kind of like a generational thing. So I would say I observed my mother make it so well in the marketplace, thriving, but the home front things were falling apart, and in the end everything fell apart.
Right.
So for me, being a student of my mother, there's a few things that I was very careful and had to ask God to minister to me as a woman. I had to say, God, teach me to be a wife, because I did not know how to do it and I didn't have a template to pick up from. So I had to ask God to teach me to be the helpmate that my husband needs. Because as women, we don't realize how much power we have when we are operating in the purity of where God has designed us to operate. So when we are operating in brokenness, we are very destructive.
Okay.
So it's important as women that we heal. And when women heal, the land heals, because your sons,
that is true.
You're the nurturer of your son.
Yes.
So, the future husbands are nurtured by mothers.
Oh, yes.
The future wives are nurtured by mothers. We are the ones who have the womb. We are the incubators. We are the ones who get the fruit, the seed, and then we kind of incubate it to become a fruit. Yeah. So it's very important that we understand our...
And we're the ones who whisper into the children, isn't it?
Yes.
And they listen to us a lot. And go and tell daddy that mommy said...
And sometimes also within external factors, you find that when somebody wants to attack the home, they come through the woman. Oh, because men are very analytical. So men will be like, this thing, this deal, I don't like it. But then the wife will be like, no, darling. So through her, he will make an irrational decision. So we have to realize, as gatekeepers, we need to operate in a place of power, and we can restore our homes if we are not broken. So with the women, it's just kind of going through those childhood traumas, and let's kind of deal with them. Let's see what they are, so that when you show up from a place of strength.
Yes.
You are able to restore generations just by your presence. And when I tell women that they are vessels of healing, they're like, but then I'm like, we are able to make people do things, through our words. Our influence is powerful. So imagine if you're using it from a place where you're being influenced by the Holy Spirit, and then you're making that impact.
That's very powerful what you said, and very interesting, because I think something that's happened, especially being here in the Western and us having people who've come from the diaspora, we have come to a world where there are a lot of things that women used to do back home. And then you come here where now, like for example, you mentioned women are earning more money than the men, or you've been given a lot of control, a lot of power. You now have a lot of confidence, and you lose the respect that you had for your husband. So this about being a gatekeeper or the one who, is able to drive things, is things that women have maybe, do you think, have neglected, or women have don't value it anymore? Because like you said earlier on, that there's been a rise of people taking the easy way, the getaway car, that I'm out, it's now happening. There's an increase of that. And whether it's the man or the woman, but is it because from a woman's perspective, is it because of the fact that we're now in a country where it's now made easier?
I think also with this, we need to be careful. When you talk about women empowerment, it's a dangerous ground. It can be a very dangerous ground. We look at football teams. The coach can be earning less, but he's the coach. The footballers might be earning 300. Sometimes some are earning 300,000 per day or per week, but the coach is earning significantly less. That does not negate his position. When you start to negate the position and your power comes from material things, it becomes a problem, because what we are thinking is power is weakness. Submission is power. It's operating from a place of strength. When you're able to submit, then you're able to operate in God's strength, because you have to actually submit to something. And there's an order. there is God. So your husband is submitted to God. So you need a man after God's heart. Important. Because if that's broken, there's an issue. And then you now have to submit to the man who's after God's heart. Then you have the children who also then submit. It's a system. It's like a company.
Yeah.
We have to work in sync. You know, there has to be order. You can't have two heads. It becomes a freak.
It doesn't
And
work.
my authority does not come from the things I've got. The authority is given by God, and this is God's order. So when you submit to God's order, then things flow.
Things flow.
And it's not a place of weakness. And that's why I think sometimes is distorted for women. They think submission is not power. The most powerful place you can operate in is in a place of submission, because then you're influencing. But you're influencing women. We've been given soft power. So you operate in your feminine power. Yeah. But then now we have women who are masculine.
Well, very masculine.
Yeah. So they are wrestling with the men, and you're going to lose, because that's not your space.
That's not your space. Wow.
And a lot of women are gaining the financial strength, but they're losing in their homes. In the long run, they've lost.
That's true. I think I'm going to have to invite you alone one day, to just talk about the women on its own. But what would you say to a young couple, especially to the woman who are about to get married, or to a young lady who's just about to? What would you say to them in terms of what they should look forward to in terms of marriage?
So in terms of marriage, I think you should look for what God has designed for you. And it's very important to be still and silent. A lot of us just get up and go. Have a time in the morning and seek God. God, what would you have me do as a woman today? And that is very different for every woman. And that's why I'm saying no two homes are the same.
No.
The principles are the same, but they look very different. There's things Michael does that fits in his personality that won't fit in another home. So you have to seek God in the beginning. Let's have a communication, like a company.
Yeah.
Before you start running your company, let's have a communication. Or let's say people pay more attention in bringing a business partner in.
Yeah.
You check your staff. Every year you have an appraisal. You want to know the giftings. So as a woman, the only other place that I've seen the word helper in the Bible is the Holy Spirit. You're the voice of reason.
Yeah.
So allow God to minister to you, because you want to build a generation. You want to break things and make sure that you're setting up your children and your children's children. So I would say be a woman after God's heart. That's the most important thing.
That's the most important
and
thing.
Seek God every single day. What would you have me do?
Wow, that is amazing. Okay, so when we come back, Michael, what you would say to men is what we'd want to know.
Oh, that's good.
We'll take a quick break. Okay, so we are back to the Tandie Jacobs show, Born to Differ. Now, Michael, you are a coach, a life coach. Do you only do life coach to men, or both men, or just couples?
I think it's both couples, but I concentrate particularly with men. And because my wife deals with women, so I deal with men in that particular aspect. But also from the aspect of taking care of men in the sense of them realizing and sensing who they're supposed to be. Because I think we're in a world whereby there are certain attributes that defines what a man is. Maybe success in the economic world, and that's literally what the world tends to draw what a man is supposed to be. But what about the other aspects of it? Because we as men have to be attentive emotionally, we have to be attentive spiritually, and we have to be attentive physically for us to be able to belong into this particular world that we're in and thrive how God has made us. And just bringing us in the space of conversations and having that preparation of us being adults from childhood to adulthood. I think so many times, even me growing up, I know that it's one thing that as men grow up, they tend not to talk about being fathers or being husbands or how they will be, because it's like something that has already been naturally embedded. But that's not how the world is supposed to be, because there's an expectation that I'm going to turn up as a father and I will be okay with it. But the Bible says this in the book of Hebrew, and it says that every house is built by somebody, but God is a builder of all. That means that for you to have a particular house, if it's a 2-bedroom house, there's an input that you have to put into it. If it's a 3-bedroom house, there's an input that you have to put in it. You have to design it according to how you want it to be. So you have to be totally intentional to how you want it to, how you want the outcome to be. You can't just come out and expect that this is how it's going to be. And most of the times, particularly for us from the diaspora, we know that, oh, this is how my father was, therefore this is how I'm supposed to be. But how are you supposed to be in that particular environment or particular outcome if his creation or how God has embedded him is totally different from you?
From you.
So
I think you're very right. And I think also it's about understanding that the environment is different and accepting the exposure. You know, exposure maybe, you disagree? That
the exposure is different, the times are different, and we always have to know that the times have changed.
Yeah.
The fact that family doesn't change doesn't mean that how we approach family does not change, because we have to be able to know that the times...
Some men want to approach marriage with an iron fist because that's what they saw and it worked back home in Africa. But you come to the UK, not that it's right anyway in Africa using an iron fist, but you come here and being an iron fist kind of father or husband, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
You know? And it's going to clash because women are being empowered by grace to be confident. And then you come here and you want to, to talk about. So isn't that then a bit of a clash? Do you find that a lot in terms of men with how they talk about their own challenges and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's one thing, because it's like a copy of our previous generation that we're just copying, but necessarily not copying it based on the fact that it will work for us. Because there are some things that you can be able to pick up from your father that will work for you, and there's some things that you got to be able to check out of your own particular life, because the fact that it worked for him does not necessarily mean that it will work for you. Because the previous generation, for example, is most women were staying at home. They were not working. And we have a generation whereby women are so much empowered that they're in the field as well. How do we navigate that, and how can we be able to complement that? Because it's not a matter of a one team player. This is it's a team. And what do we put out in the team for this particular team to win? Because at the end of the day, so many times we look at the captains. So many captains are defenders. But the person who strikes most of the time is the person who they cheer a lot.
Exactly.
But that does not take away the efficiency and the authority that the captain has got.
The captain has got. That's a very powerful point. Very interesting. Very good. And you just reminded me of something that happened one day with my niece. She was about, I think, 13, 14 years old. And I was telling her something, you know how they're all growing up and they feel they can now talk to boys. And I was, having her that talk, about boyfriend. And she said, "This is not Africa. That's not how we do." It ignited something inside of me. Something inside of me, which sometimes you would see may happen. I mean, this is just from a teenager side of things, but that may happen within couples. So what would you say then to a young man who's about to get married in terms of advice? What kind of advice would you give them, especially if they have come from another country and they're living here in the UK?
I think it's number one, we got to find out who we are. We've got to be so much intentional on being present in both three phases, where I call this the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual side of it, so that we can be whole in our own self. Because once we walk whole in our own self, then we are able to be in tune of things that are changing around us. We are able to be in tune of even the nation that we are changing. Because when you are in touch even with your surroundings, you can be able to know that I've come from Africa and this is how things are happening in Europe, that I can be able to quickly adapt into it. Why? Because I'm in tune emotionally with what is happening at that particular space. And in that particular perimeter, then it attracts the people that you need in your life, that complement what your life is. And you can be able to physically, emotionally, and spiritually be able to be in tune with them as you're moving along, because this is a journey. Because as marriage is in that particular space, it's one of a great decision that you'll ever make for what people started with. Because most people, it's the starting point should be very, very key in every single thing. Because those decisions, once you make it, are you able to last in the whole entire journey? Are you able to adapt in the the things that are going to be able to come in within the movement that you're having. Because once you have made those particular points, then you're key to know that you will be able to eventually succeed. There will be trials within the time, but because you're standing on that particular solid rock, that you cannot be moved left or right. The winds will bash you, the sun will hit you, but eventually, because of where you're standing on, it will surely make sure that you're going ahead.
Wow. Grace and Michael, you guys are loaded with information and things you want to pour out and to give out. But it's been absolutely lovely having you guys on the show today. Indeed, you are a different couple. You are unique in your own way. You are special in your own way. You guys have date nights that I see often, you know, you guys posting and sharing and talking about, which is good for a relationship. I even see you guys exercising together. You exercise together, you go on date nights together, you go places together. I mean, you work together. There's a lot of things that you do together. And I think it's very encouraging. And it's good that we are able to see it, not just people talking about it, but to actually see it. Thank you so much for coming to the show on today. It is an absolute honor to have you guys. And yes, that's what being born to be different is. And we cannot wait to have you on another day, another episode. And I'll make sure I invite one at a time.
Yes.
I'll invite one at a time so that each one can be able to share their own and the other one can share their own. And when you are going to be having your seminars, please do let us know. So where will people find you in terms of the Weatherproof Marriage or life coaching? Where can we find you?
I think if you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, just put Weatherproof Marriage, or you can come to our personal pages and it will direct you to every single thing that we're doing. And Michael Oggudah, Grace Oggudah.
Yeah.
And that way, I think it's easier to know what we are doing and how we can be able to be of help, how we can be able to just infuse in your life and pick in and see what we can be able to.
Pick up the things that don't need to be there and chuck them out. No, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming here to the show today. It has been lovely having you guys. Once again, it's been a wonderful episode having the Oggudahs with us on the show today. My name is Tandie Jacobs and look forward to seeing you again. Take care.